Plant-based chat day. So plant-based chats are a weekly series where I'm bringing my friends on and my old friends and sometimes potentially new friends. This time it's an old friend, Michelle Blackwood from Healthier Steps. And we're going to be chatting a little bit about different foods, and she's going to make something super delicious for us that I'm really excited about. And in fact, she's so kind that she's even tweaking the recipe a little bit more for our community. So she already does gluten-free and vegan all the time, and she's also doing more no oil and no refined sugar. So she's kind of changing this a little bit today, and she was practicing the recipe, and I got to take a peek yesterday. It was super cool. So I know Michelle from, I think we've kind of known each other online for a long time because we started about the same time, but we met in person at Everything Food. Was that like, I've lost it with COVID, all the time has changed. So everything was 2 years ago, even though I think it was like maybe 4 years
4 years.
ago.
Yeah, 4 years. Sounds more
Uh,
like it. Yeah, I missed the one after our
yeah,
event.
yeah, I went to that one, unfortunately. So for those of you who are not food bloggers, which is a lot of you watching live and later, um, Everything Food was this really cool food blogger conference where we got to get together, eat good food, talk about how to do what we do better. So it was pretty cool. Um,
Yes.
Dawn, who's my best friend, says, "Oh, I didn't mean to make that go. Is that my shirt is fabulous? So I'll take that. Thank you very much." And I see a bunch of you guys are listening and watching in. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, in the comments, just because it makes me happy and I don't ask for a lot. And I will tell you that it is like almost raining pine pollen here. It is not the worst day. So those of you who don't live in North Carolina may think, when you see the meme in the spring and it looks like it's like some from a horror movie, but it's like yellow green pollen everywhere, everywhere. And you're like, no, that can't be real. Oh, it's real. We haven't gotten to that stage, but literally our whole driveway is yellow. Our whole deck is yellow. So I would love to know, are the trees, kind of making babies where you live yet? Or is it still waiting a little while? Our azaleas are blooming, the camellias are blooming, the dogwood trees. What about you, Michelle? What about where you are? Are stuff starting to bloom? Or you live in Florida, so things are kind of always there?
Kind of always. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Caddy, for inviting me to your live stream. I'm so excited. Hi, everyone. Right here, right now in Florida, it feels, I mean, it's spring, but it's warm. It's like 78, 80. So we're all gardening now. I haven't had any issues with pollen personally, but friends have had issues. So, yes, the pollen is here and things are in full bloom, gardening time, gardening season everywhere. So, it's fun times.
That's awesome. So I would love for you to tell people a little bit about your background and journey. I don't know
Yes.
why. As soon as I started to say journey, I was thinking that's a rock band, not a word. So that's the kind of day I'm having today. I don't know what that was about. So Michelle was worried a little bit about perfection, and I'm like, we don't do perfection on my show. Let me go first.
You make me feel so relaxed here. I love your easygoing, calming spirit. I love it. I love it.
But
I'm
we're live
excited.
video. Anything can happen. It's exciting.
It's
And
true.
it's just wonderful to get to talk to everyone and get to introduce my people to you. So, again, tell me some about your. It's obvious you have an accent. Perhaps you are
Yes,
from
yes.
somewhere else, somewhere that
I
makes
was
delicious food.
born and raised in Jamaica, and then I left when I was 19. I went to England to study to be an RN. And from England, I migrated here to the USA, met my husband, got married, and we have two children. And we've lived all over. We're missionaries, so we've lived all over. And we're finally here in Florida. And we said, this is it. This feels so much like home. And this is it. So we love Florida. I always like, come on down. It's so nice. And I've been blogging for 11 years actually. March, April, I started my first blog
Mhm.
on healthiersteps.com. And when I started, I was already a vegan for over, like, now it's 25 years. Because I always know, because my daughter is about to celebrate her 25th birthday. So anytime she's next month. So, and Kathy, you met my daughter, if you remember. So
She was so
I've been at
sweet.
it, yeah, I've been at it for a long time. And I first started doing vegan recipes. And what motivated me to actually go online, it was, what happened was, when my son was born, he's 13 years ago, they nicked my intestines. So 4 days later, when I'm supposed to leave the hospital, that's when they found out that something is gravely wrong with me and I'm about to die. They rushed me in, surgery, opened me back up, and they found that I was nicked in two places in my intestines, in my small intestine. So I almost died. I was placed in a medical induced coma, and I was in the ICU. I got out the hospital for after a month, struggling, 10 procedures, back and forth. It was just crazy. And after I came out, I got so close to dying. I considered I was dead. Because when I got home, I said, this is it. I am no longer just going to teach cooking, vegan cooking to the library. I'll go to the library. I'll have little cooking classes here and there. I was going to go online because I wanted to reach more people. I wanted more people to change their diet, and that was my inspiration then. So this is it. 11 years ago, and still at it.
That's amazing. I don't think I knew that story. I don't think you ever told me. That's
No,
that's
but
a lot.
I've said it online over and over again on my platform and all that. I think
What
I've even put it in my book. It's in my,
it probably
yeah.
is. And where can people get your book?
Okay, so my book is either, you can find it on my website or on Amazon. If you type in Michelle Blackwood cookbook, they'll come up. Yeah,
Okay, great. And
thanks.
just so you guys know, let me see which way. Here we go. If you look below Michelle's name, it says healthiersteps.com, and that's where her website is. So you guys should all make sure you go and sign up for her newsletter and things like that, because you'll find a lot of real good things. And some of the things that are older may not be oil free or soapus
Yeah,
free or
sugar
something like
free.
that. But you can ask me, and you probably can ask Michelle, but you
Oh,
certainly
sure.
can ask me if you need some things to change out. But I think now we should go for the demo. So you're making Jamaican buns, which I was surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have it at the side already, or no? Oh, I thought you
Oh,
were
do you
reaching
want
for
to
it.
finish?
Does
Okay, okay. No,
does okay?
go ahead.
Shh, I'm spoiling the surprise. Um, Let me go ahead and let you go full screen so you can show all of your stuff and start cooking, and I will just ask you questions as they come up.
Okay. So, yes, you can. For me, I've just been on a challenge. So for me, I've gone back and forth in eating oil, gone oil free, sugar free, and this is it for me. I'm midlife now, so I decided that's it. I'm cutting out sugar completely. Oil, I'm still struggling. I still use, like, say for instance, I'll still use a little olive oil, pour it. I try not to heat it as much, so the oil is still what I'm not there as yet. However, sugar, I've completely cut out. I'm actually in a challenge, so that's what, and it's phenomenal. It's amazing.
Michelle,
So I'm excited.
tell me about
Yes.
the challenge, and then tell me, when you say you're cutting out sugar, are you cutting out refined sugar or all forms of sugars, like maple
Well,
syrup, molasses? What things are okay with what you're doing? Because, like, right now, even when some people are SOS, no sugar, salt, or
right.
oil, there are certain things like date paste seems to be a common denominator for most people.
Okay. So I've never used, from I became vegan, I've never used refined sugar. I'd use like the turbinado sugar, sugar in the raw. But for the challenge that I'm doing, it's an exercise challenge. So I'm exercising with a friend, from Something Better, and she's doing an exercise challenge, and it's monthly. And I told her I'm permanently monthly. It's a way of life for me now. So we exercise from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. every morning, and then the group we have, like, not every morning, it's Monday to Friday, and we then discuss what things we're doing in our diet. So in our meal plan, I would say we cut out sugar, no, not even maple syrup.
Okay.
However, personally, I would use the maple syrup, but not during this challenge. So it may be a long while before I actually cook with maple syrup. But I do have an assistant who cooks. So if there's anything for the website that will use maple syrup, is personally I won't be eating it. It will still be on my website because I still think it's a process, and a lot of people have sweet tooth. So I have to meet people where they're at. So for me personally, while I'm on the challenge, I'm using dates. I'm doing so there'll be a lot of date recipes with date paste. I do have date syrup, but not necessarily I'll be using it for this recipe. I only brushed on the top a little because for this recipe, you want the top to, we'd use a simple syrup in Jamaica. So I brushed a little on the top for the recipe because you want the bread to be, or the bun to be super moist. So that's why we end up using that. However, for my challenge, no, I'm completely off any kind of refined sugar. So gluten free. For the gluten free flour, you could use traditional, like I normally do gluten free flour for this recipe. I literally took my oats, put it in a blender, a dry blender, processed it into flour, and that's the base that I'll be using today.
Oh,
And
really? So you're not using something like Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1. You're not using any blends.
no,
That's amazing because, and I'm gonna go to two person real quick because I feel like I'm not talking to you, um, because I always say don't buy oat flour, grind it in your blender because it's like
yeah,
so much cheaper. And
so much.
I love that. So are you going to be so the Jamaican bun is actually like in a loaf pan.
Yes,
I'm spoiling this a
yes,
little bit for everyone.
yes, and
So
it's in a low.
I'm interested in how, without xanthan gum or some of the things that are in the gluten-free flour blend, how is it sticking together? What
Okay,
is
so thank you for the question. For years, I didn't even want to touch xanthan gum. I only use flax or chia seed, grounded flax seed or chia seed. There's some people that they can't have chia seed because if they have problems with breast cancer in their family because of genetics, they won't touch the flax. However, they may have the chia seeds instead. Both of them are interchangeable. Today, I did use flax, but you could use chia seed. That's what I'm using to actually hold the recipe together. I want to talk a little bit about Jamaican bun. What is it? Where it came from? So it is like a spice fruit loaf. It traditionally, it came originally from Cornwall, England, because Jamaica was colonized by the British, and they had a bun or a cake called saffron cake, and it was basically a dough with dried fruits would be like currants, raisins, and saffron, the actual spice, the most expensive spice from the petal, is it? And it turns the bread yellow. That's what they've used as the base. Also, Jamaicans would say we adopted that recipe, the saffron cake, saffron bread, and we modified it. Ours don't look yellow. Ours would more look brown based on the dried fruits that were used. And I think some people might even use browning. I don't do browning because browning is basically burnt sugar until it browns. And for me, that's possible. It possibly could be linked to carcinogens because you're literally burning the sugar. So I don't touch browning.
so,
Instead,
Michelle? What
yeah,
when you say browning, it makes me think of oh, what's
some
the gravy browning stuff?
gravy seeds. Yes, 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 yes. Because you're literally, and remember, if food is cooked at high temperature, it releases carcinogen in, the food turns to carcinogens. So you don't want to have too much of it. I mean, Now and again probably won't harm. It's not every day you're going to be eating it, so then it could have a detrimental effect. But sometimes you don't know what stage your body is in terms of disease, so you don't know what's going on, so sometimes things might put you over the limit. So I try to stay as much as possible. I mean, we're not in a perfect world, as possible. So what I'm using today for the coloring is carob
Ooh.
powder, and I love carob. If you've never had carob, it is a legume, and it is sweet. It has a sweet, naturally sweet flavor, and it gives that dark brown color that I'm looking for in traditional bun. So around Easter time, bun became so popular in Jamaica around Easter time. So there'll be hot cross bun and the spice bun, the Jamaican spice, because it has a lot of spices, and I would say it has more flavor than hot cross bun, because in it we use a lot of the spices that are in Jamaica, the cinnamon, there's allspice, there's nutmeg in it, and then there's also vanilla. So it's really flavorful spice. It's almost like what you do bake at Christmas time. But bun is so popular in Jamaica. It's not only sold or popular around Easter, all year long. Bun
Oh.
is, you can get it in the stores. People buy it as
Oh.
snacks for the children. They sell, like I'm doing the loaf in Jamaica. They sell little round ones like hot cross bun size, in sealed in plastic, sealed in their own wrappers, and that's sold as a snack. So that's how popular it is in Jamaica, and it's very flavorful. Another change that I like, my original recipe, I had like coconut oil in it. I decided to go with applesauce. And I'm surprised. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but the moisture was still there. I've lost nothing. There's still the flavor
Mm.
using so there's so much more to gain. Sometimes in life we think that we can't do without things. And when we make the necessary adjustments, we realize that we're gaining instead of losing, because 1 tablespoon of oil is about 120 calories. And now I've used applesauce, which is high in fiber. The pectin is good for your bowels, your digestive system. And so I'm gaining instead of actually losing. I'm actually gaining by adding the applesauce instead of the oil. And the dates, high in fiber, sugar. I mean, to be honest, sugar probably, I mean, it shouldn't be in our diet.
And it's very addictive. I know personally that
That's what I was about to say.
like over the pandemic, I will definitely say I answered the siren call of like some of the commercial vegan ice creams, and I'm working on developing some whole food plant based ice creams right now. But yeah, yeah, and once you start, then you're hooked again.
That's the thing. So right now, I'm on this, and that's why I said I want to be on this challenge for life, because that's the way I've been in the past. You go back, and once you're right, I didn't want to mention that. I didn't know if it was allowed to say that on your program, but yes, addictive. Try to get off sugar, and then you realize how much you were addicted. And then if you go back to eat it, you'll find that it's super sweet. You'll be like, this is too sweet. It is so sweet. And you're like, it's because I've been on where I've been on fasting or fruit diet or just salads. And then when I go back to eat those processed food, you're like, oh, they're so sweet. But once, like, an addiction, you get hooked.
It's very very true. Okay, well I'm gonna let you get started. All those sound so super awesome, and you know what? Because you used oats, this would also possibly fit into a SOFAS free diet, which some of my viewers do, which is Chef
Nice.
AJ's. So it's whole food plant based, no sugar, oil, salt, flour, alcohol, or avocados, nuts, or seeds. So because you use
Oh,
the oat, but
it's
oat flour is allowed.
yeah, I'm on the no alcohol too. So that sounds. The only thing is I still have avocado. I love my
Right.
avocado.
And again,
Tropical. That sounds good.
with like any of these diets, I just like to make sure that I make options so everybody can sit at the table. And I know
I
you have
love
that
that.
same sort of feeling, which is why I like you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah, yeah. Everyone is on a journey, and all of us are at different stages of the journey. So that's why I say all are welcome. We sit at different, but we're all on the journey, and I don't think we've arrived. We're still on. It's for life. We're on this journey, and we're learning every day. I'm learning something new. Okay, so what you want to do is for the dates, if I'm going to use this, because you can find date sugar too. So there's date sugar out there. What you have to do is you have to most more than likely, like I like the medjool date because they're really super soft. I'm just demonstrating. It's just so soft. So you want to pit them. You want to remove the pit. You want to remove the pit. So just and you're just gonna add them to the blender. Okay. And so you're just they're so soft. And I rather get the medjool, like I say, or sometimes you see those dates in the bin in the store. Sometimes they're too hard. So I wouldn't go for those. If you have no choice, you can literally just soak them, or you can boil them, put them with some water on the stove just to soften them up a bit before you put them in the blender. So I'm just putting, let me show you the blender. Oh, you can see. I'm just putting them in the blender. This is all demo. I already made the recipe, so this is all for demonstration. So just adding to the blender. I'm good. Yeah, thanks.
And that means you get to see the end result. But like, so another thing I want to add about your dates is, so everybody says, don't you just always use medjool dates? And I'm like, I use whatever's cheapest, but I also always either soak them overnight or heat them in warm water a lot of the times. But
Yeah,
I do agree.
yeah.
I'm kind of cheap sometimes.
I don't blame you. Yeah, we all want to save, true, especially nowadays with all the prices and the gas going up. I'm always thinking of ways to save. I'm doing gardening this year, even bigger than I did before.
Oh, that
So
should
I'm
be,
big on gardening.
that'll be super cool. We'll have to have a visit where we get to go look at your garden. I think maybe that would be a
Oh,
good chat in the
please.
summer.
Oh, I think you will love it here. It's just gorgeous. Where I'm living, it's just so gorgeous here. I definitely invite you, Kathy. Come on, we should do a video. I think you, and then you can see the garden. Right now, I have celery, cabbage, broccoli. We have, well, the broccoli, they're bolting now because it's getting too warm. I have a lot of kale. My kale is getting taller and taller because I'm just reaping from it, and lots of herbs. And we're adding more. So I'm adding the milk, which is almond milk. You can make your own as well. There are recipes I have on my website. It's easy, just almond. You soak the almond and you take off the skin, and then you blend it with water, high speed blender. If you don't, you can use regular blender. You just blend over and over. And Kathy, that's all I have in here is the
Okay.
vanilla, the almond milk, and dates. So,
So I'm going to mute her for just a minute while the blender's going because she asked me to. So another thing that I do, especially when I haven't thought about time or anything like that, is that I'll take some extra rolled oats, throw it in my blender with some water. You could throw a date in there if you wanted to make it sweet, or vanilla, just like anything else, or for a stew, soup, or in this case, like, so with what she's doing right now, I would probably put about a cup of milk in, I think. And but I would maybe put like a quarter cup of oats, cup of milk, or maybe a cup of water, and that will make a milk in there in and of itself. You could also do the same thing with cashews. Okay, so we're still blending. And so you can do that. And I love oats. And one of the reasons I love oats so much is that they're so inexpensive. And let's see, before we leave, I think I've shown you guys this bag. I'll do it later. Actually, I'll do it real quick right now, and I'll unmute you. And here, I'm just going to show this real quick. So this is the size oats that I buy from Amazon, and they're gluten-free. It's awesome.
awesome, nice. Yeah, I also Trader Joe's, I think, has the gluten free oats too.
Yes.
Amazon. So
This is the
that's
one I get
awesome.
on Amazon. It's called Bakery on Main, and they're certified gluten free. I think it's like 10
Nice.
pounds, 10 or 15 pounds at a time.
Awesome. Awesome. I have to check them out too. So I'll get the link for you from you, Kathy, or is it on your website?
Oh, yeah, I'll put the link in. I'll give you the link for sure. And I love
Thank
how
you.
yummy that looks. That just looks so good right now. It's like
Thank
vanilla
you.
caramel milk.
That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I'm gonna do next is right. I'm sure. So like I said, I'm having almond milk. I mean, don't forget oats. Sorry about that, guys. Oats. We have the almond milk here. Oats in the bowl. I have almond flour. I
Ooh,
have the ground flaxseed, and then my spices. And it's a combination of cinnamon, a little nutmeg, um, and cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice. Those are the ones that we love in Jamaica, and baking powder. So I'm just gonna mix the blend. I'm just mixing everything together, and I'm gonna go ahead and add my carrot powder. So
awesome.
carrot powder to
And
it.
are
Okay.
the amounts similar to the recipe you have on your blog now? So we would just use oat flour and all of
Yeah.
that. Do you?
Do you want me to send you the exact amount, or do you want me to tell you what the exact amount is right now, or
Yeah.
do you want me to?
Why don't you tell us really quick, just so that way, because I put the link down below.
Okay. So for the milk, the blend in the blender, I have 2 cups of almond milk. I used 12 dates. My husband loved it. He said it was perfect with 12 dates. If you want to use more, if you have a sweet tooth, he said it was fine. It was perfect. And I used 3 tablespoons of carrot powder, 2 teaspoons of the vanilla, and half cup of applesauce. I'm not gonna add the applesauce until I'm finished. I'm just adding it when I mix everything. So to the bowl, the
Mm-hmm.
dry ingredients, I have 2 cups of oat flour, and like I said, all you're gonna do is get your oats and you're gonna blend your oats in a dry blender to make your oat flour. Easy. I didn't even think of doing that because I thought it was just so easy to do. Almond flour, I'm using 1 cup because the almond flour will give it more like a cake like, a lighter texture.
Okay.
You possibly can do it with just all oat flour, but I went ahead and said, you know what, put the almond flour in because it gives it that nice texture. 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds. You can use chia seeds. 1 tablespoon of baking powder. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Half a teaspoon of ginger, and half a teaspoon of allspice, half a teaspoon of salt. And for the spices, it's your favorite spices.
Okay.
So you can do just cinnamon. You could do if you like cardamom. Cardamom
Mm.
is great too. Would be taste good, and coriander would taste good. So all those sweet spices you can use, but the ginger, the nutmeg, and the cinnamon are really like more closer to traditional spices that we'd use in Jamaica. And the salt, and I like Himalayan pink salt. Then what I have is I have dried fruits, and I chose a blend of cherries and raisins, whatever your favorite dried fruits are would work. Prunes would work. Um, currants would work. Dried fruits. Cherry. I have this cherry. I didn't put it in. I just wanted to show it because there's sugar in it. That's the only. I got this natural cherry that does not have like this is like a maraschino cherry minus the bleaching that they would do with traditional maraschino cherry that has that red translucent look. This would be more natural, except it has sugar in it. When I looked at the ingredients, it doesn't have it's vegan, no red dye, it doesn't have the red dye, non-GMO, no corn syrup. So this is great in it, but I didn't put it in because it had the extra sugar.
And one thing for
And
people to check too is like if you've got dried cranberries, dried cherries, dried blueberries, and I know that like Trader Joe's has a really good fruit dried
my
blend,
favorite
but a lot of times those do have sugar in them. So if that is
sugar.
not on your dance card, just say no. Or
No, that's the
but
thing.
or dry your own. So another thing you can do, is you can when the cherry harvest comes in and you can get cherries cheaper, go ahead and dehydrate those yourself.
Yep, yep. Apricots would be nice too. I mean, that's
Ooh,
not traditional, but I would love to add apricots too. Why not? It'd be good. And so I'm just mixing the dry ingredients, just mixing, just mixing. And then I'm going to add my wet ingredients and the applesauce.
that stuff looks so good. I just feel like you're making like sweet spiced caramel almond oat
Smells great.
goodness.
It smells good. Uh, it just tastes like, if you just taste the batter, it's gonna taste like oatmeal, like sweet oatmeal. I found that my assistant was making it yesterday, and he said, "Oh, it tastes like oatmeal, like a breakfast oats." And I mean, it has so many healthy ingredients. The oatmeal is good to lower cholesterol. So that is all that fiber, and it's just good to lower the cholesterol. So I'm gonna go
That's
ahead and add my applesauce.
And it's kind of true though, like what you're doing right now is very similar to cold overnight oats. Like, with the
Correct.
almond milk and the sweetener, and you're just adding spices to that. So you could, should you not want to bake because it's too hot, or maybe your oven just went wonky and you're like, what do I do now?
Oh,
Put that stuff in jars and breakfast it.
oh. So that's it. You're just gonna mix and make sure there's no lump and no flour that's not moist, and basically that's it. Carob gives it a nice color, and carob is caffeine free. There's a lot of nutrients in carob. It's just good for you. If you've never had carob, highly recommend you try it. And next, I'm going to put it. And okay, so what I like to do is I'm using a loaf pan.
Mhm.
This one is a stainless steel, but however, if say for instance, the loaf pan that you are using is has it's made from aluminum. What I like to do is I like to go ahead and use parchment paper.
Yeah.
But the bonus of using parchment paper is not only for one reason. I like to use parchment paper because it makes it easier to remove from the pan.
Yes, it does. And with
So
oil-free baking, you need to have that parchment paper.
exactly, exactly. So I like to use the parchment paper, and I just put it in and add my batter. All right.
That's always the hard part, getting the parchment paper to stay in while you're
I
pouring the
know.
batter.
I
But
so
you,
I add the go ahead and add the dough, and it helps it to stay in
yeah,
place.
add a little bit of dough. That's a great thing. But I like the way you folded everything up. I think that made it easier too. Oh, just look how
Okay.
pretty that dough is. Or the
So
batter.
pretty.
It's not really dough, it's batter.
Right, right, right.
I don't want to change anyone's expectations. I just wish you lived near me so that I could smell this while it's baking in your oven and I could come over and be like, hey, Cheryl and I want a piece.
How far are you? I don't think you're that far though. So this
We're,
is what it looks like.
oh, yes, let's see. So that's the one ready to go in the oven.
I'm gonna put it in. I'll stick it in the oven.
Oh, and Kelly says she uses silicone pans. That's
That's
a,
even better. Yes, because sometimes, to be honest, that parchment paper sometimes sticks for me.
uh,
Sometimes I have problems. The
and
what do
in
you?
the,
Oh, I forgot to put the fruits in. It's not too late.
it,
I'll be back.
it's not too late, and we can also just kind of pretend you did. So
Hey,
another
that's cute.
That's what I would do, but I have no
It makes
shame. And
it fun.
Anita's saying that one of the things she does is crumples up the parchment paper before she tries to push it in. And that's a great idea and a great tip.
I
Thanks,
love
Anita.
that. Oh, thank you, Anita. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try crumple up it so it makes little pockets for it to remove easier.
And
How comes I didn't know that? You see, I'm telling you, I'm always learning.
oh, we're always, that's the whole thing. Because, like, that's why I like doing this show too, because then this way we get to learn from each other and everybody, and we just all get smarter. Um,
Absolutely.
and don't
Alrighty.
worry, she's got a ringer waiting for us to see, like one that she baked yesterday, because
Yes.
it takes a little while to bake though, right? Didn't you say it took like 60 or 70
60
minutes?
70 minutes, yes. So look at the color. So this is what it looks like. And look at the color. I do have cheese, but not real cheese. I have the fake cheese in it because that's what traditionally we serve
Oh,
it with in Jamaica. We serve it with cheese.
really? I
So
would have never known that.
like cheddar cheese. That's what it's served with in Jamaica. And I mean, it's sweet. And then, but the cheese in Jamaica is super salty. So I think it's that sweet, salty combination. And that's why it's so loved there, the sweet and salty. Or we eat it with avocado there, tropical fruit. So this is what I'm going to, it's really moist and fruity.
And it's staying together really well. Like a lot of times
Oh,
gluten-free
wow,
things
yeah.
would crumble.
Oh,
This
yeah. I
isn't
can
crumbling
tell.
at
It
all.
doesn't crumble. No, 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 not at all. See.
Wow. And I know that that's from yesterday too. And sometimes fat-free baking will dry out a lot sooner. So this is day two and it's like going
Oh,
strong.
it doesn't dry. What you do at the end when it's baked, then you brush. That's where you'd brush a little date syrup on top, or whatever you can. If you're oil free, maybe apple juice. I don't know, or maybe you cook down some dates and just put a sauce on top. It'll keep the moisture in, just on top to seal it and keep it moist. And it's super moist. That's why I was, and I believe it's the apple sauce too. That's why, plus the dates, the blended dates, all that is moisture that is being added to the bun or the bread. So that's why I was like really, really amazed at the result. That for the first time I was making it using these ingredients, and it came out just the way we traditionally love it in Jamaica. It's a moist bread. It's moist. It needs to be moist like that and thick. It came out perfect, actually.
It looks
Want me to show
amazing. I'm going to change us
you?
back to our two views. But oh my gosh, Michelle, that's amazing. If you could move it a little bit to your right, just a little
To
bit,
my right?
and then it's closer to you, then they can closer to you, to you.
Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you can see it in the corner, and
Right,
that way they
right,
can see
right.
the cheese. And there's a couple of cheeses that I've done, and actually I'm getting ready to, oh, and Bonyface says everything is good. Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it? I think it looks great.
Thank you.
And I love this idea of them with the cheese. So I've been making some sliceable vegan cheese, and the last time I'm actually getting ready to remake this, I have a what is it, pepper jack cheese, and so I used oats as a base.
Oats as your base. Yeah. Oh, I want to see that, Kathy. I have two
Oh,
too. I have a cheddar and a pepper jack, but I didn't use oats, so I know yours is way healthier than mine. I
well,
think I use
it
agar.
well, this one uses a little bit of carrageenan, which some people have the feels about. So you can
Yeah.
use agar instead. It'll be a different texture. Now, is it Tracy? I think came in late. What can you substitute for sunflower oil? And I'm thinking you're looking at Michelle's
The
original
original.
recipe. And what she said is that just add applesauce 1 to 1 for that. And that's going to work for that. Oh, and Karen says she can't wait for the pepper jack. I'm actually posting a YouTube video. I post one every Friday night at 7. So this is one that's already edited. It's actually from the class that I made it for. And it's just super simple, and you put it in the blender. There's like tapioca starch, I think carrageenan, and lactic acid are the two weird ingredients.
Yeah, I
Um,
bought some lactic acid there recently. I've never used it though.
oh my gosh, it's so awesome. So, like any
Mhm.
cheese sauce you have or any sliceable cheese, you just add like a half teaspoon and it makes it more cheddary. It gives it a little bit of bite. I was looking at
Okay.
Amazon yesterday and it's like there's no vegan lactic acid to be found. So, hopefully, they're just not getting it delivered yet. So,
Yeah,
I'll,
yeah, mine is vegan. Yeah.
yeah, and people always go, well, lactic acid can't be vegan, but yes, even though we're used to lactic meaning milk, it's actually from sugar beets. The one I
Yes.
usually use Druid's Grove, which is probably the one you have, I bet. Um, but I've even been adding it into my different like queso sauces and stuff. If you taste it, it's just a white powder. It just
Yeah.
tastes a bit tart and sour.
Wow. I
But
can't
I'm
wait to
thinking
use it. I mean, I bought it for a while now from Amazon, and I'm like, I want that traditional tart, sharp flavor of cheddar. So I'm going to try it.
I think it works well, and I still will use sometimes some apple cider vinegar with it or mustard powder or something like that. So, those of you who maybe cannot get lactic acid for a little while or don't have it, you could use a little citric acid. If you had something like a vinegar powder, that would work. If you're using it for a sauce or like even these sliceable cheeses start as kind of a sauce and gel up. So, you could put some regular vinegar in there too. So, Michelle, tell me some more about, are there any other like Jamaican traditions around this time of year or dishes that we could look at to kind of veganize, or maybe you've veganized for us?
I mean, there's just so many Jamaican recipes that we eat them all year round. And so for Easter, like any other holiday, we will serve Jamaican rice and peas. That,
Mm.
similar to beans and rice, but made a little bit different. I would say it has more flavor. Because there's the thyme, and then there's the coconut milk, and there's onion, garlic, and so the allspice I put in mine. So rice and peas, if you've never had it Jamaican style, it is a different flavor profile, and it's great. So I would say try doing rice and beans, and not with Jamaican way, the Jamaican
And
style.
do you buy
Pepper.
pigeon peas or do you use a particular what should we be shopping for?
Okay, so you can do pigeon peas, but I would say most people use kidney beans. But if you don't like
Okay.
kidney beans, you use pigeon peas. So there are two ways making the same
Okay.
dish.
Do you
And
ever
I mean,
use um,
okay,
I'm sorry. It's
so
because I'm looking at this camera and I don't get to see her. I was going to say, do you ever use the small red beans that are
oh, I love
literally called on the package small red beans? When I go
well,
to,
I've used that. I never did until I went back to Jamaica before COVID, and I stayed at a hotel, and the chef was so amazing. He would make the chief chef would make our meals for us because it's
mm,
vegan, and he would every day while we were there. He came to work so he could make our meals. That's how much he was so nice, and he used the small red beans, and they were so delicious. I said to him, "These beans are not kidney beans. What did you use?" And he said, "They're little red beans." And I have a lot right now in my pantry. I buy a lot of the small red beans because we also make a dish called Jamaican stew peas. And it's the same idea of beans with coconut milk, onion, garlic, green onions, scotch bonnet pepper if you can find them. They're so hard to just use cayenne pepper. But the flavors is amazing. So we make this stew from the beans
mhm.
and cook down. You could put carrots in it. We put what they call dumplings in them. And that is the most delicious stew.
Ooh.
You're going to want to lick your fingers.
Well, and I don't know if you saw, I just put up something, and I believe I'm the queen of mispronouncing names, but I believe it might be Boniface, and who's saying, as African people, we want to know this, like about the different beans we should use, and
Oh,
is also
nice.
congratulations for your amazing work. Yeah, because you've done a lot of really great things. Um,
Thank you.
and I find the small red beans, and what's funny is because people from different areas are like, Well, which small red beans do you mean? Because if you go to the Hispanic market, or at least if I go to Campari
Yes,
Foods here in Durham,
that's
North
where I'm having
Carolina, they literally say it. I think they might be also known sometimes as Dominican beans. So I don't know the dish that's from there, or if that's. I use
it.
those for red beans and rice, like New Orleans style, in the slow cooker,
Yeah.
because there's some issues with slow cooking kidney beans, which is an
Right.
issue. Yeah, I don't want to go into. But you can, because you can do any of those. It's just an easy bean. It's small and it's delicious.
Thanks. I was grabbing some beans. Oh, give me that one. Give me that one.
And
I just give me that one. I was gonna show you the
Boniface is a
different beans.
huge fan of yours. So
Oh,
and again,
please.
forgive me if I'm saying
Thank you.
healthier steps is number
No, red
one.
beans. Red. He bought me a lot. So this is the kidney beans.
Yeah.
Any
Oh, and
more
you're
red
using
beans?
Camellia, which is the New Orleans,
Yeah, I
Louisiana
just get
brand.
the brand. It is a brand from your era?
From Louisiana. I lived in New
Oh,
Orleans for
Louisiana.
12 years,
Okay,
so that's
nice.
the official New Orleans red beans that they make red beans and rice with.
Yeah, Gene, there are tons of red beans right there. We're getting all the. I was trying to get all the red beans. I have so many different.
I
I have
do
a
too,
lot of.
because
Oh,
in
so here it
Rancho,
is. This is one.
yeah, the Rancho Gordo Bean Club, you get 80 bazillion different kinds of small red beans.
So
Okay.
many small. This one is called um Frio Rojo de Seda, red Seda beans from Honduras. Honduras.
Ooh.
So that so there's so many different red beans, and this one is really dark. And so traditional when we cook rice and beans in Jamaica or rice and peas, we love that the beans will give that pink hue to the rice. And so
Ah.
the darker the beans, the more color that rice would turn to a more pink reddish color, and that's signature to Jamaican peas and rice. So I like to go for the
Oh.
dark red. And anything dark when red, the anthocyanins are in it, they're healthier for the body. So I like reds and those hues, purples. They're very
I,
good.
I love that. And Tracy had a question, and again, if I'm shortening your name wrong, I apologize. Says, what's so good about that brand versus Goya? And you could be talking about, when I said Rancho Gordo, you could be talking about the Camellia or any of these. So I don't know that. Oh, and someone else is saying, can I repeat the name of the Bean Club? It's Rancho Gordo Bean Club. It's in California. It's kind of expensive for beans. So it's like, if you're on a really strict budget, you might not want to go there, but they make heirloom beans. So that means beans so that can be
Love it word.
planted again. And they're usually
Yes.
older varieties, and they work with a lot of farmers in Mexico. So they have a really amazing business model. Um, but like a pound of beans is like $5 or $6. So I'm not going to lie to you guys either. So like if you're looking for budget beans, grocery store beans are going to do it for you. Now, and Tracy wants to see you make peas and rice, and so maybe we have to have another hangout for peas and
Okay.
rice. And
That'll be
so
awesome.
Olivia was saying, and again, it's Rancho, RANCHOGORDO, Rancho Gordo. And
Nice.
okay, and so Tracy was saying, no, it was not that, but the Camellia beans versus Goya beans. And I think I'll let you answer that, Michelle.
Honestly, I just think it's for me it's brands. I just think it's brands, different brands, and it's sometimes you end up loving a brand. I guess it's like people who drink Pepsi and Cola. I think it's just brands. I think it's you end up loving one more than the other, and if you have a good experience with one, the beans are excellent. You keep buying that brand. That's how personally I think. Apart from that, they're both American companies, so you're buying American if you're in the country, you're supporting or local farmers or the ones you know. So I think it's personal preference. I'm not sure. I love the heirloom. Love heirloom. I think heirloom's products will have more flavor. They'll taste amazing.
They often do. Like I get a lot of heirloom tomatoes, but what happens is, the reason they're not commercial is they don't travel well or they don't last as long. Or but like if you go to the farmers market or grow them, and so with Tracy saying the camellia beans, from my perspective of being in New Orleans too, they're usually a little larger and they're usually a darker red. than most kidney beans. Now, with that said, you can go to the Hispanic market and you can buy dark red kidney beans. So,
Correct.
yeah, and it always depends on where you are, like, because we don't use meat and oil and a lot of processed foods at the house, like having the Rancho Gordo Bean Club works for us. And for a while, they
Also,
had a 2 year wait list, but now they're opening it up. Yeah, they had a 2 year wait
wow.
list.
You see, the fact that you said there's a 2 year waiting list means how special those beans are. So I want to get on that waiting list.
Well,
I want to try them.
and you get little things too. I think I just put this up. Oh, oh, here we go. Sometimes, and with the club, you get things like this is a chili dipping powder. So sometimes they'll send you spices. I get a
Nice.
lot of Mexican oregano from there. That's how I was introduced to
Oh,
Mexican
good.
oregano, which is
Oh, good stuff.
it is
Good stuff. Potent.
yeah, yeah, and
It's
everybody's
almost,
voting
I
to
would say medicinal. It's good for the body. Oregano, oh, potent
what.
stuff for the
And
immune
what
system.
if you guys have like Greek or Italian oregano, Mexican oregano, and marjoram, I recommend that you go get them and smell each one and see how the subtle differences. You in a soup or something, you can interchange them as a substitute. But like
Right.
marjoram and Mexican oregano have kind of this floral like aroma, and Mexican oregano adds a little bit of citrus to it as well. It's amazing.
Nice.
So, Michelle, have we been nice enough that you might come back another time?
Oh, Kathy, you are so nice and sweet as usual. So yeah, I can't say no to Kathy. Kathy, when you talked about the food, traveling and doesn't travel well, I think that's also for me green flag that is good food. Because if you think about a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times for exporting food, imported food, they irradiate the food so it can last longer. So the food is passed through radiation. That is untouched food straight from the soil. It's the best.
And it's true. And if you can find some local farms, I mean, not everyone has the luxury of being not being in the middle of a city,
True,
but
true.
I'm finding more and more farms are coming into the cities too a little
Nice.
bit. So if you have a
Farmers
farmers
market.
market, and our farmers market too is starting to take what is it called now? I want to say food stamps, but I think it's EBT
Yeah,
is the
that's
thing. And
good.
I think that that's amazing because the thing is
That's
that
good.
at least in the Durham farmers market for a while, they were giving people half price so they could get double, even though it's usually more expensive to go to the farmers market than to just go to like
Right.
Food Lion or something like that. So really trying to make things where everybody can join in and get healthier foods. Where I live, we have a program called Seeds, which is where they teach kids to garden, and it's kind of it's in the city, and actually all the stuff they grow, they let the neighborhood have for free. And
Oh,
they also
nice.
sell it at the market. So I always buy from them, and they have some of the kids in the program that are like doing all the taking the money and doing all the cool stuff. And we've gone to fundraisers there too, and it's just beautiful.
Nice.
So yeah, and so there's a lot of people more bringing that sort of thing in because it's hard. And when I lived in New Orleans and they closed a couple of grocery stores, I didn't have a car then, so I could only get to where I could get. Right? You can only get the
Yeah,
tomatoes you can get.
yeah, yes. Um, One of the secrets in getting reduced price at a farmer's market, go when it's about to close.
Hmm. Yes.
Everything goes on sale. They're trying to get rid of stuff. Oh, we'll give you half price. We'll give you, oh, you can have this a bag for free, bag for $1. So that's
Yeah.
one of the secrets.
What? And one of the things I love to do during tomato season is they always have boxes of ugly tomatoes. So
Right.
sometimes that means it's bruised. It usually means you can't sit it on the cabinet for till next
No.
week. So, but what I do is I cut them up, and I used to just cook them in the slow cooker to cook them down because they could be maybe
Sauce.
heirloom tomatoes. They might not be sauce tomatoes, and then I would just freeze them in bags and just pull them out in the winter.
Yeah, they freeze very well. Oh,
And we get
tomato.
things with like boxes of peaches. like, jam peaches or jelly peaches, they'll say, or strawberries, and you can get those for very cheap. And the thing is even if you don't want to make sugar laden jellies, you can puree that if it needs to be pureed, because you'll have to cut some pieces off, and then put it in the freezer and use in your smoothies. Put
Yep.
it in ice cube trays, break it out, then
Yes.
you can throw some
Yes.
in.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Awesome.
do you have any last tips for us?
Everything. Keep coming to Kathy's program. It's amazing. I love this live. It's very educate. What do you say? Educational, educative.
Yeah, he said
Which
it was.
one?
He said
You're
we
gonna
learned.
learn. Just keep coming. It's good. It's amazing. And go back and watch all the older videos, because she had some many great food bloggers. Some of them are my friends. I was like, wow. So
And we'll have
thank
more
you.
people on, and we're definitely going to have you on. And I think the whole beans and rice thing would be awesome. So we can
Yeah,
we
I
can.
don't even make it with a recipe, Kathy,
That's
because I've been
okay.
making it all my life. No, I have the recipe on my website, but when
Okay.
I make it, I literally will teach you how to make it without a recipe, because that's the way I grew up making it without a
And
recipe.
what more can you ask for? I mean, that's why a lot of times I'll make something live, or I think I went on live and I'm like, I think I'm going to see if this works. And sometimes it does, and if it doesn't, I'll veer off. And that's how I made my oat parmesan. I didn't like the
Oh,
pesto.
nice.
It worked out okay, but I didn't like it. And so I make a vegan parmesan that's kind of like Kraft in the in the green thing in the fridge.
You didn't like it?
No, I like this one here. I'm sorry, I'm leaning out of thing, um, but you can see it looks just
So
like it.
what's the base? What's the base for that parmesan?
Oats, nutritional yeast, and salt or salt substitute. But the
Oh,
trick,
okay.
the trick is to toast the oats.
Toast the oats. I'm
and
about to say
and I'm
toast
always
the
like,
oats.
you always see this part of my head, because I'm like, you've got to smell it to begin with, and you're like, it smells like oats. Oh, it smells like oats that are cooking. How did this turn into nuts? Right? Because there's this like little bit, and you're like, and you wouldn't know it was nut free. And that dry Kraft Parmesan is Cheryl's favorite,
See?
and so she uses it on
You're
everything,
toasting it. Yeah.
and it
That's
costs
the secret.
nothing. Nothing.
Externizing it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for
Thank
hanging out with
you.
us and showing this bread. I think I'm going to have to make it just so I can try it with cheese. Like, obviously, vegan cheese before anybody gets panicky, because I'm going to be testing some new vegan. I just made some vegan pub cheese yesterday.
Oh, interesting.
I made it with
Oh,
cashews. I haven't tried that one with nuts yet. It's super simple with just a few things in it and blended. But man, it's good. And most pub
is it going
cheese
to be on your
recipes.
website? Is it going to be on your
It
website?
is going to be on my website.
Okay, I
Yes,
can't wait.
I meant to take pictures while I was making it, and I didn't. So,
Oh.
bad blogger, right?
I forget sometimes.
But
You're
I'm
in the
gonna do.
moment. You're enjoying.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But yeah, that's going to be on there. And when you buy vegan pub cheese out, usually it has coconut oil in it. And so if you can't have nuts or cashews right now, I don't have a different one for you. But but soon, trust me.
Yeah.
And Kelly said she can't wait to try more of your recipes. That's to you, Michelle.
Oh,
And Linda says, thank you for demonstrating Jamaican Spice Buns. I can't say them. Jamaican Spice Buns. I'm going to win this one. And she really can't wait to make them. And I think I might have to make this too, because it sounds delicious. I'm out of carob powder, so I got a shopping trip to do.
I'm sure it tastes good without it.
Well,
It's just a color. It was for color.
well, thank you so much, and I can't wait to have you on again. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Again, just to kind of hang out, plant-based chat. You get to learn something, see some good food, and just hang out with me and my friends, just the way life should be. So have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys all